Canada is united!
Well, here we go again. Trump's throwing another tantrum, and surprise, surprise, Canada is his latest punching bag.
Tariffs, threats. If we don't want to get slammed with tariffs, just become the 51st state. Because apparently that's what trade deals are now. More like a mafia shakedown, people.
Canada's not playing along. If Trump thinks we're just gonna roll over, he's got another thing coming. So buckle up, cause this is gonna be fun. The fact that Trump keeps calling Prime Minister Trudeau Governor Trudeau isn't just ignorant, it's downright insulting. Canada is a sovereign nation, not some U.S. territory he can slap a price tag on.
We're not worrying about a foreign invasion right now. We're worried about a hostile takeover from Florida.
He says China and Russia have ships off of our coast, but let's be real. The only reason that we would need to defend ourselves is if Trump decides to liberate us. History shows that when leaders say a country is weak, it's because they're looking for an excuse to save the day.
And we've seen this playbook before. They're weak, they need our help. Next thing you know, there's tanks rolling in and they're helping themselves to our resources. Trump says he wants to save Canada. We've seen leaders manufacture crisis to justify invasions before. Could Trump be laying the groundwork for something similar with Canada?
We're not saying that Trump is planning an invasion, but if he were, this is exactly what it would sound like. And if history has taught us anything, when a leader says that they need to protect you, check whose army is doing the protecting. You ever notice how every war the U.S. starts is in a country full of natural resources? Iraq, oil, Afghanistan, lithium, Libya, oil again. It's almost like war isn't about democracy, it's about money.
War isn't just a strategy for them, it's business. Huge business. And that's exactly why the US wants Canada. Not for our culture, definitely not for our politeness, and not for our healthcare system that makes them look really bad.
We've said this before, what they want is our resources. The third largest oil reserves in the world, the most fresh water in the world, one of the largest reserves of critical minerals like nickel, cobalt, lithium, which is needed for EVs, cell phones, and the entire green energy transition. Forests that cover 38% of Canada, and of course, the Arctic and Northwest Passage. You put that together and suddenly, Canada isn't just a friendly neighbor, it's a prime real estate deal. And Trump, being Trump, is trying to claim it for the US, because in his mind, if America wants something, it's automatically theirs, no questions asked.
Trump's playbook?
If he can't buy it, he'll bully it.
And this is why Trump keeps threatening us. He knows the US can't just invade Canada, so instead, he's trying to make us suffer economically.
He figures if he keeps squeezing us with tariffs, trade wars, and economic blackmail, eventually we'll break and just ask to join the US out of desperation.
Not happening. Canadians are annoyingly resilient. You think a little economic pressure is going to make us fold? Buddy, we voluntarily live in a country where the air hurts our face for half the year. Trump wants you to believe tariffs are a way to punish other countries. The reality? Americans are getting screwed just as much.
This time, he's hitting Canada with 25% tariffs on steel and 25% on aluminum, stacked upon the existing 25% tariffs from the last time. Let's say the US slaps a 25% tariff on Canadian steel. Who pays that 25%?
If you answered Canada, congrats, you've been watching way too much Fox News. Wrong.
That tariff is actually paid by US companies importing the steel, so they have to eat that extra 25%, or surprise, surprise, pass it on to the American consumer.
It's like trying to punish your neighbor by setting fire to your own lawn. That'll show them. It's like a restaurant doubling the price of your meal because they don't like your accent. Oh, you're from Canada? That's double.
Who loses? Well, American businesses because they pay higher costs and lose profits. American consumers because everything costs more, but wages don't magically go up. And yes, Canada temporarily. We lose some business at first, but quickly find other buyers. And we're prepared to outwit, outlast, and outmaneuver the idiocracy of the Trump administration.
So I want to talk about why joining the U.S. would be the worst deal in Canadian history.
If Canada magically became the 51st state tomorrow, what would actually happen?
We'd be second-class citizens forever. The U.S. barely listens to its smaller states, so imagine how they'd treat Canada.
New York, California, Texas, they're more powerful than our entire country. And good luck getting anything passed in Congress. If you think Ottawa ignores Alberta, wait until Washington, D.C. is running the show. U.S. companies would buy up Canadian businesses and lay off Canadian workers.
Imagine the millions of Americans looking for homes here. Only 1 million Canadian? That's a steal! And worst of all, we would lose a third of our life savings overnight. The Canadian dollar is only worth 64 cents to the US dollar. If we switched, boom! Your life savings just got 30% less in value.
Got $1 million saved for retirement? Congrats, it's now worth $640,000.
Pensions? Forget about it, they'll be absorbed. Healthcare? Gutted. Suddenly your free doctor's visit is $300 plus $3,000 a month for insurance.
Enjoy your retirement? Oh wait, you can't retire anymore. Americans don't even get guaranteed pensions. They get hope you saved enough plans. Welcome to capitalism, baby.
We have put into the CPP all our lives. Do you really think that Trump will let us have that money? Him and Elon will just scoop it up and say, wow, we just found billions. And Alberta, you're not going to like it at all.
Many Albertans think joining the U.S. means more oil money. But guess what? The U.S. already has Texas. They don't need Alberta.
Instead of being Canada's energy powerhouse, Alberta would just be another oil town competing with Texas, Louisiana, Alaska.
You thought Ottawa was bad. Wait until Washington starts running Alberta like a Texas gas station.
Oil workers? Hope you like minimum wage and no health care, because the USA doesn't subsidize the oil industry the way that Canada does.
All right, let's talk about Pierre Polievre. For years, this guy has been telling us that Canada is basically a flaming dumpster rolling downhill.
And now all of a sudden he's wrapping himself in the flag like it just saved him from choking on a Timbit.
You don't get to trash talk Canada for years and then act like you're leading the parade. Let's roll the highlights, shall we?
First up, Everything is Broken. That's his greatest hit, his Bohemian Rhapsody of doom and gloom. He has said it so many times that I think he actually believes we're living in a Mad Max wasteland.
With universal health care, which, by the way, he loves to claim is failing. And yet, funny enough, he's not exactly rushing off to get his checkups in Texas, is he? And then there's the woke thing. He promised to get rid of woke culture in the military, because apparently inclusion and respect are the real threats to national defense.
Yeah, nothing says strong leadership like being afraid of pronouns.
And then there's his take on the government. It's too big, too bossy. Right, Pierre, because the real problem with Canada is all these pesky public services actually helping people. So for years, this guy has been out there acting like Canada is a disaster movie, like we're one bad snowstorm away from collapse. Now that Canadians are standing up to Trump, suddenly he's all in. It's like watching someone yell, "I hate cake" for years, and then faceplant into the biggest slice the second everyone else is enjoying it. And the thing about Canadians, we don't fall for fakes. You don't get to slam this country for years and then throw on a red scarf and act like you've always been one of us. While Trump is busy throwing tariffs around like it's confetti at a parade, Canada is actually doing something smart. We're strengthening our own economy by breaking down those interprovincial borders.
That's right. For years, we've had these ridiculous internal barriers, different regulations, certifications, and standards that made it easier to trade with other countries than within our own provinces.
So what is the actual cost of Canada's internal trade barriers? Well, a 2016 Senate report found that internal trade barriers cost the Canadian economy up to $130 billion annually.
These barriers act like a 6.9% tariff on goods traded across provinces.
Isn't it crazy that we're taxing ourselves for the privilege of doing business within our own country? Who thought this was a good idea?
Luckily, the Liberals have announced a renewed focus on eliminating these barriers.
And here's the kicker. Fully opening interprovincial trade could boost Canada's GDP up to 4%.
It's time to tear down these walls, and not the one that Trump's talking about, but the ones that we've built between ourselves. Let's make it easier to trade between Toronto and Vancouver than it is between Toronto and Detroit.
Canada isn't walking away from U.S. trade. The U.S. is our biggest trading partner, and that's not changing anytime soon.
But that doesn't mean we have to sit back and let Trump screw us over. Our leaders are already working to expand trade with Europe and Asia. We already have deals with the EU, UK, and the Asia-Pacific nations. They won't replace U.S. trade, but they do give us leverage. Even U.S. businesses hate this. American manufacturers need Canadian steel. Farmers need Canadian markets, especially our potash, which they need for their fertilizer.
So yeah, go ahead, Donald. Make American businesses pay more just to own the libs.
And one of the most powerful things we can do is buy Canadian.
We did it before, and we'll do it again. Every time Trump pulls this tariff nonsense, the best thing that Canadians can do, stop giving American companies your money.
Forget Florida oranges, get yourself some berries and apples, buy from Guatemala, Mexico, anywhere but the USA. And dairy? Support our farmers. Get Canadian farmers' milk instead of drinking the US milk that's pumped with hormones and corporate greed.
And focus on Canadian brands like MEC, Swiss Chalet, Kelsey's.
Go to Harvey's instead of McDonald's.
Trump thinks he's punishing Canada? Buddy, we'll just skip your Kentucky bourbon, grab a bottle of Canadian whiskey, and call it a day.
I know everyone is out there trying to buy Canadian, and there's a great app that we have put in the links below to help you find out if it was made in Canada. And instead of Florida, California, or Hawaii, we'll vacation in Mexico, Belize, Panama, the entire Caribbean. They have better beaches, the drinks are cheaper, the hotels are cheaper, and you don't have to deal with Florida, man.
If just 10% of Canadians swap their US travel plans for a ski trip within Canada or a beach getaway to Mexico or the Caribbean, the American economy would take a $2 billion hit. And judging by our social media feeds, it's already way more than that. I don't know anyone heading to the US while Trump's out here holding us hostage with his 51st state nonsense.
Honestly, his economic strategy is more like a game of whack-a-mole with excuses.
And what's his excuse this time? Border security, fentanyl, trade deficits, the fact that there aren't enough USA banks in Canada.
The reason we're punishing Canada is they don't spend enough money on defense.
He just keeps rolling the dice until his MAGA audience cheers. This has nothing to do with fentanyl or border security. Those are just buzzwords that Trump uses to keep his least fact-checking followers engaged. Another day, another Trump trade war that defies logic. Trump keeps testing Canada, but he forgets we're polite, not pushovers. And we don't do bad deals.
Go Canada, we're sticking together, and he doesn't realize what he's dealing with.
And if you enjoyed this video and you want to support us to get to 100,000 subscribers, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, click like, and share this with everyone you know.
Go Canada!